on this Tuesday night.
I understand the frustration.
Ottawa announces help for the oil patch, but it's not what Alberta had in mind.
What we asked for was for them to remove the handcuffs.
So will it really help workers?
A dramatic twist for Michael Flynn, why Trump's former national security advisor is again facing time behind bars. And our panel of U.S. insiders on the many investigations targeting the White House. It was like the veil had lifted. I hear that.
A 6-month-old baby marking a major milestone, hearing sound for the very first time. The life-changing test for newborns. This is The National.
Anger in Alberta has been building for weeks. Growing protests, demands for a pipeline, calls for Ottawa to do something to help the oil and gas industry. Well, today, the federal government responded, pledging $1.6 billion.
Well, the availability of capital at a tough time is essential for the long-term viability of businesses, and particularly in the oil and gas sectors.
That's the official line. But here's the thing. Most of the money will come in the form of loans. The federal government believes it'll help companies stay afloat by allowing them to make new investments, like buying new equipment, and also to find potential new markets at a time when there's a major backlog, getting Canadian oil to U.S. refineries. But tell that to Alberta's premier.
So we don't need help finding more markets. We need help moving our product. And I don't know that we could have been much more clear about that.
Rachel Notley there, not mincing words. And as the CBC's David Cochrane shows us, she had lots more than that to say, suggesting Ottawa just doesn't get it.
Amarjeet Sohi is a rarity, an elected Liberal in Alberta where the anger in the oil patch threatens to move him from rare to endangered.
I am Albertan. I have lived here for 34 years. I know people who are struggling.
To help with that struggle, Sohi unveiled a carbon copy of the aid package Ottawa rolled out for steel and aluminum companies when the U.S. hammered them with tariffs. The oil patch is larger, but the dollar amounts are smaller and consists mostly of loans.
We made an ask to the federal government, and we didn't ask for the opportunity to go further into debt as a means of addressing this problem. What we asked for was for them to remove the handcuffs.
A pipeline is the ultimate handcuff key, but that's years away at best. In the shorter term, Notley wants federal money to buy rail cars to get oil to market. There was no sign of that today.
We didn't get a lot of notice for it, and I suspect the reason for that was that they expected we would not be entirely satisfied. So, as I say, my expectation is that there's going to be more to come.
Maybe, but Ottawa has refused to even hint that it will buy into the rail plan, suggesting the billions it is spending on the Trans Mountain Pipeline is the better option.
Government's kind of caught in a difficult spot where they need to demonstrate that they're doing something right now while continuing to work on the long-term solutions.
So to save his job, Sohi likely has to save many oil jobs. By finding long-term solutions to a long-term problem, Sohi is eager to pin on the former government.
I understand the frustration. That frustration grows because of the pipeline capacity that is not there to get our resources to U.S. and non-U.S. markets. But the blame lies clearly at the feet of the Conservative government.
It's easy for the Liberals to say this is not their fault, but as the protests show, it is definitely their problem. David Cochrane, CBC News, Ottawa.
So let's go directly to the people affected. We have seen a lot of anger from the oil patch in the past few years, and as Rafi Boudjikanian shows us, it may not be going away.
You didn't have to go far to find oil field workers taking in Ottawa's announcement today. A few even showed up right there to tell the federal government what they thought.
So you got two provinces that are refusing the pipeline. You know what I mean? And he tries blaming the PC government for not getting it done. But why you guys wait until you're almost your last year of being in power to bring it all up?
Did we get this Quincy bill paid?
Kirk Grimes runs a company that services oil wells. Between a Trans Mountain pipeline expansion stalled on court order and a tanker ban on BC's north coast, he's never had such little work to spread among his employees before.
That's really not a lot of money in this industry, and what we need is access to this export file, this pipelines, an east pipeline, a west pipeline, or a northwest pipeline. And this tanker issue needs to get relooked at.
Chad Muller agrees. The pipeline construction contractor has been out of work for a month. He's been trying to help other oil patch workers who lost their jobs.
When I first heard the news of it, I didn't know what it was for. I was hoping it was to start consultations and whatnot on getting Trans Mountain back on track to get some shovels in the ground. But now hearing what it's going to, it has nothing to do with any of us in the immediate fact here, right?
Build our future!
It's frustration that's boiled over into anger in Alberta. This was just one of many demonstrations in Calgary in recent weeks. No surprise for this industry watcher who says Ottawa's money won't amount to much.
Looking at the amount involved, $1.5 billion, that's a lot of money, which unfortunately wouldn't need to be spent if we had addressed the problem of pipeline capacity more effectively earlier.
And until that problem goes away, it's likely the anger will just keep growing. Refugee on CBC News, Edmonton.
Well, just in time for the holiday season, there is a new push to get impaired drivers off the road. Big changes to the criminal code came into effect today.
If you're stopped by a police officer now, anywhere in Canada, expect to be a demand to be made from you to provide a breath sample.
Officers can now demand a breath test from anyone they lawfully pull over. They no longer need evidence of a reasonable suspicion that the person was drinking. And maximum prison terms for many impaired driving offenses have been increased from 5 years to 10. Of course, the intention is to make us safer, but at what cost? As Jayla Bernstein tells us, civil rights activists are concerned about who might be targeted.
Just doing a ride spot check tonight. Any alcohol for you at all?
No.
A question that's perhaps quite innocuous if you're sober. But for visible minorities, interaction with police can be a minefield.
I have people around me, especially men, they've been stopped while driving in their life 30, 40 times. They're not criminals. They don't have any criminal record. So just the everyday reality of a black person that drives.
She's worried about how police will use their new powers.
Every time a person of color is stopped for no reason, it leaves a trace. It's not just the incident in itself, it's sometimes the violence of those incidents.
Did you smoke weed?
A study based on data collected by Ottawa police found officers disproportionately pulled over people they perceived as Middle Eastern and Black, something advocates fear will get worse under the new law.
It's yet another tool in the police arsenal that is not based on any requirement that the police officer have a suspicion that a person has done anything wrong at all.
Ottawa isn't blind to those concerns. That's why the Senate tacked on an amendment requiring the government to report back in 3 years on whether visible minorities are being disproportionately targeted.
The difficulty here will be to have reliable data. It's not easy to have police officers report on why they stopped someone, or is the person from a racial minority or not.
Anything to drink today?
Police say they need more tools to detect impaired driving. It's not about violating people's rights, they say, but about saving lives.
If you're operating a motor vehicle on the road, I feel that it's reasonable that there would be an expectation that you not have alcohol and drugs in your body, and so to expect somebody to have to prove that, I don't see that as being overreaching necessarily.
As police exercise those new powers, many will be watching to see how they're applied and to whom. Jayla Bernstein, CBC News, Montreal.
So the new law is controversial, but will it be effective in reducing the number of impaired drivers? Canada has one of the highest rates of driving deaths linked to alcohol in the developed world, and advocates say it's partly due to the lack of so-called mandatory breath tests. In fact, many countries already have mandatory testing programs in place. After Australia first introduced it in the late 70s, the number of deaths on the road dropped by 20%. In Switzerland, where mandatory screening started in 2005, drivers testing positive for alcohol fell from about 25% to about 7%. Here in Canada, impaired driving has steadily decreased over the past 3 decades, but it still remains one of the most common criminal offenses today. And how often people drink and drive seems to depend on where you live. Less than a third of the population live in rural Canada, for example, but account for more than half of all impaired drivers reported by police last year and represent 2/3 of cases of impaired driving causing death. That's likely because more people in rural areas have cars, have to drive longer distances, and don't have easy access to transit.
For Michael Flynn, today was supposed to be the end of a long journey. After nearly 2 years, Flynn, a key witness for the Muller probe, was going to be sentenced for the crime of lying to the FBI. But as Keith Bogue explains, his case just took a dramatic, unexpected turn.
Former National Security Advisor might have thought he knew what he was facing this morning. He did not. Instead of the expected light sentence of 0 to 6 months recommended by prosecutors, Michael Flynn got a dressing down. Judge Emmett Sullivan admonished him for a crime he hadn't actually been charged with, failing to register as a paid lobbyist for a foreign country, Turkey. All along, you were an unregistered agent of a foreign country while serving as the National Security Advisor, he said. Arguably, you sold your country out. Flynn's lawyers had presented the judge with a written statement a few days earlier. In it, they seemed to argue Flynn had been tricked by the FBI into lying about conversations he'd had with the Russian ambassador, the one relatively minor crime for which he has been charged. Sullivan insisted Flynn admit to the court that he lied to the FBI, knowing full well that he was breaking the law, and Flynn did. But the judge might also have been irked by the fact conservative media have already been running with the Flynn has been framed story, supported most notably by legal scholar Alan Dershowitz.
I hope the judge understands when he has the case tomorrow that Flynn did not commit a crime by lying.
The White House picked up that theme and continues to say that Flynn has been badly treated.
The FBI broke standard protocol in the way that they came in and ambushed General Flynn and in the way that they questioned him.
Flynn left court after the judge told him he could go to jail today or postpone his sentencing for 3 months and maybe not go to jail at all. His new predicament is that he must continue to cooperate with Muller, knowing now that Mueller's recommendation for leniency doesn't guarantee him anything. As for the president, he wished Michael Flynn good luck in court today, even though it was he who fired Flynn, allegedly, for telling the vice president the same lies he told to the FBI. Keith Bogue, CBC News, Washington.
And for the president, another legal twist today. His charitable foundation has agreed to shut down its remaining funds given to other court-approved nonprofits as the lawsuit against it continues. The New York Attorney General accuses the Trump Foundation of, quote, shocking illegality, functioning as a checkbook for the U.S. president's business and political interests. In short, that Trump's charity was about giving back to himself.
My whole life I've been greedy, greedy, greedy. I've grabbed all the money I could get. I'm so greedy. But now I want to be greedy for the United States. I want to grab all that money. I'm going to be greedy for the United States.
That includes during the 2016 presidential campaign. Trump allegedly solicited donations for his foundation in Iowa. His campaign then decided which local charities got those big novelty checks. That was just days ahead of Iowa's vote on the Republican nominee. Lawyers for the foundation say any infractions were minor. But the lawsuit against his foundation is just one of the challenges for Trump. His company is also under scrutiny. So is his inaugural committee. There are investigations into his campaign, including for those hush money payments. And of course, the Mueller inquiry is also looking into the Trump presidency itself. From those investigations to major developments with China and more, this has been a pretty wild few weeks in Washington. We'll be talking about all of it with our U.S. political panel in about 15 minutes.
She'll be wearing red pajamas, wearing red pajamas. She'll be wearing red pajamas when she comes. Scratch, scratch.
Okay, well, how's that for a blast from the past? This is actually just from a couple months ago, but you might remember that sound from your childhood. Sharon and Bram still perform today. They're in the middle of a farewell tour across the country, in fact, that'll stretch into the new year. But they've hit a big snag, one that's put a pretty sour note on things. Eric Rankin explains from Vancouver.
For 4 decades, Sharon, Lois, and Bram entertain kids and parents alike.
After Lois's death in 2015, Sharon and Bram soldiered on.
Who stole the cookies from the cookie jar?
Now, Sharon Hampson and Bram Morrison are wondering what happened to thousands of dollars they say they're owed for the BC leg of their final national tour.
It was kind of a disaster. The money to us is significant because it's how we make our living.
I suspect we're out about $15,000.
Sharon and Bram's BC promoter put them in small towns instead of Vancouver and Victoria. And while they say they did get an initial payment, that unpaid $15,000 was to cover flights and the salaries of their three-member band. Instead, the duo, now in their 70s, had to pay those expenses themselves.
Oh, the audience has never failed us. The promoter, that's another story.
Please put your hands together for Bram. Travis Pangburn is a controversial promoter, making his name hosting high-profile debates between intellectuals and philosophers. But in November, his company, Pangburn Philosophy, folded after canceling a major debate in New Zealand, then New York. Some ticket buyers who had spent as much as $500 each say they never got a refund. Around the same time, Sharon and Bram were waiting for their money.
It seems like he's run into some trouble, and I think he hurt a lot of people.
Pangburn declined to be interviewed, but in an email wrote, "It sucks. The fact that the shows didn't bring in enough to cover their full fee was highly unfortunate." Sharon and Bram say their shows were well attended.
It makes me feel sad. It makes me feel a little bit beaten up.
Despite the setback, Sharon and Bram hope to return to BC in the new year with a new promoter and say goodbye one more time. Eric Rankin, CBC News, Vancouver.
Here are some of the other stories we're watching tonight.
There's never been a more popular police officer in this province than Ron Tavener.
That is Ontario Premier Doug Ford continuing to defend the appointment of a family friend as the next chief of the Ontario Provincial Police. This as the province's Integrity Commissioner confirmed today that there will be an inquiry into the issue. Critics accuse Ford of interfering in the process that selected Toronto Police Superintendent Ron Tavener for the job. The opposition is calling for a public inquiry.
I think the public should be relieved that Mr. Millard will not see the light of day, of course.
Convicted killer Dylan Millard has been given a third life sentence to be served consecutively. This means he will have to serve at least 75 years in prison and wouldn't be able to apply for parole until he was 102 years old. The 33-year-old was found guilty earlier this year of first-degree murder in the death of his father. Millard is already serving time for killing a stranger, Tim Bosma, and a former girlfriend, Laura Babcock. He has filed appeals in both of those cases. And good news if you're hoping to get a package in the mail before Christmas. Canada Post now says it's caught up on most of its parcel delivery. The backlog was created by rotating walkouts by its employees who were legislated back to work last month. Normal holiday delivery service guarantees have been restored across the country, except in Vancouver.
Lucky Vancouver. Okay, ahead tonight on The National, a little girl hears for the first time. That's thanks to a new test that could change lives.
And she was a trailblazer and a true comedian. We look at the life and legacy of Penny Marshall.
But first, insurance companies are cracking down on fraudulent claims. And you won't believe how people do it. We go undercover.
I mean, there's no evidence that this is a facility that would supply any type of medical equipment or orthotics or compression socks, that type of thing. Yet we have claims coming from this particular unit.
Canada's insurance companies are facing an increasingly expensive problem, and it could be costing you as well. Fraud is apparently running rampant to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Now, as Diane Buckner shows us, investigators are stepping up their efforts to crack down.
We are suspicious of the place.
Gary Askin has seen it all.
This place right here. You know, I don't think there's anybody there.
A former commander with the Waterloo Police Force, Askin now works as a fraud investigator for insurance giant Sun Life, tracking down cases where company benefit plans are paying for designer sunglasses, iPads, and other illegitimate goodies.
Sometimes cash cards, shoes, purses, coats, that type of thing.
Today he's at an address we can't reveal, but could be a base for false claims.
So there seems to be nothing going on at all. I mean, there's no evidence that this is a facility that would supply any type of medical equipment or orthotics or compression socks, that type of thing. Yet we have claims coming from this particular unit.
You were appreciated and liked, soon to be rewarded with a promotion and raise, but you threw it all away.
It's called benefits fraud, and insurers estimate bogus claims are costing as much as $600 million a year.
So if you're thinking about falsifying your health or dental claim, think again.
The penalties for fraud can be stiff. Earlier this year, a Toronto firefighter was sentenced to 6 months in jail for forging medical invoices. Toronto's Transit Commission fired 200 employees. All were involved in a scam related to orthotics. The clinic operator got 2 years in jail.
You're stealing from the wallet of money, if you can think of it that way, that's used to pay for your health care and the health care of your family and the health care of your colleagues and friends at work.
At Sun Life head office, a team of close to 100 investigators, including data scientists and former police officers, worked to identify fraud schemes.
In 2017, we cut off 1,500 practitioners across the country.
Many were involved
1,500 and growing.
But for compression stockings, you will not pay anything.
This hidden camera video was recorded by an undercover investigator with insurer Green Shield Canada.
Okay, I can give you the website to can choose what. Okay, perfect.
The investigator was offered fashionable footwear instead of the compression socks that were prescribed.
Okay, show it to your husband too. Okay.
Green Shield's vice president says not just money is at stake, fraud can hurt honest employees.
There's life-saving drugs available under these plans that can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and employers can't afford to be paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for claims that aren't real.
His scam is basically creating a fake clinic. His aunt
Investigators like Gary Askin say fraud schemes are more sophisticated than ever, but so are the analytics available to help detect them.
I mean, this is a resource I would have died for in policing, because we've got more data scientists working for Sun Life than any police service in the country, probably with the exception of the Mounties.
Most employees, of course, don't scam the system. The message from the insurance industry to those that do, think again. Diane Buckner, CBC News, Toronto.
Up next on The National, our panel of U.S. political insiders is here from Washington, D.C. After the midterm elections to the many ongoing investigations, there is a lot of ground to cover.
And meet Francesca, the baby who's experiencing a few firsts, including her first sounds.
Okay, so that was two. It was just subtle. It was looking down and then looking up.
It's been about a month since the midterm elections.
Feels like a lifetime.
Things have been intense.
There was so much to talk about.
A Democratic House.
We have fights in the Oval Office.
Muller investigation.
And we have a trade war with China.
We're now halfway through President Trump's first term.
The White House is gearing up for major confrontation.
And America is divided.
I'm Jay Chabrilla, former senior advisor to Ohio Governor John Kasich and current Republican strategist.
Hi, I'm Patty Solis-Doyle. I'm a Democratic political strategist. I've worked for Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden. I've been in politics for 30 years.
I'm David Frum, a writer with The Atlantic and formerly of the Bush White House.
So the last time we saw you three was the night of the midterm elections. I know it feels like 2 years ago, but it actually wasn't that long ago. House now controlled by the Democrats, by, I guess, more than 40 seats. You've got Democratic governors winning in what were previously Trump states. Does any of this make a whit of difference to how the business of government will be conducted next year? Patty?
Well, I certainly think that Democrats in Congress have better cards to play when they're negotiating with Republicans. But if you're asking, will Democrats be against Trump almost 99% of the time? Yes. Will Republicans sort of turn a blind eye to the chaos and the potential criminal activity conducted by the president? 99% of the time, probably. But I think the big difference now is that Democrats control the House, and that gives them the power of subpoena and the power to investigate and to actually have oversight over the presidency. And that's going to be the biggest change.
100%, that's a huge change. When the Democrats control now the Congress, they have the subpoena power, they have the gavel, and I think you're going to have a lot of investigations. The challenge is going to be, is anything going to get done in D.C.? And my prediction to you, and I know we'll do predictions later, there's not going to be much getting done, except for the fact there's going to be investigations, and that's going to be the order of the day in Washington. So how does things change in Washington? Nothing's going to happen. Is that just more of the same? I actually would say to you that there were some policies that were implemented in the last 2 years, whether Democrats like them or not. They were pretty conservative, far right, pretty conservative policies. That's not going to happen anymore in the next 2 years.
Do you agree? Nothing's really going to change?
Well, things are going to change. Not much is going to happen. Right. President Trump had been idly speculating about a second tax cut in 2019. That won't happen. The deficit for the year, assuming the economy stays reasonably strong, is going to be verging on $1 trillion. I know I sound like Dr. Evil. How much is that? Let's just say, relative to the U.S. economy, in times of comparative peace and prosperity, the United States is about to run a bigger deficit than it ran during the most violent phase of the Iraq War. So it's a gigantic deficit. That's going to be a problem. It's going to have to be addressed. The investigations are going to happen. President Trump, who imagines his charm and appeal, I think is going to look for ways to work with Democrats and will then discover that that's not successful, and then will react with tremendous emotional petulance when he discovers that his various ideas for winning them over are not so easy.
What are we to make of the turnout? It took a while to figure this out, but it now looks that it was the highest turnout for midterm elections in a century, 50.1%. Who's wincing? Who's celebrating that? David?
Well, Donald Trump's campaign in 2016 was premised on extremely low turnout. He got in a context in which young people didn't show up and African Americans voted at lower levels than they had in 2008 and 2012. He was able to eke it out. What he has now discovered is he's got this galvanized country, and what he's especially galvanized are educated women in the suburbs. The women who go to PTA meetings, they show up, and they have made up their mind about him in a way that's quite irrevocable. So he now faces this problem that as he goes toward 2020, there's almost nothing he can do to save himself. He has to wait for the Democrats to make mistakes. And this is a very desperate situation, because if he loses office in 2020 and is a private citizen in 2021, he's suddenly exposed to indictment. The prevailing theory is a serving president cannot be indicted, but an ex-president can be. So for him, all the marbles are on the table. In the election of 2020, it's going to be a pretty nasty buildup.
But does that turnout piece of the puzzle actually worry Republicans? I mean, in your view?
You know, I think this election was very mixed, and I know there's this theme out there that Democrats won everything. The Republicans actually increased their margins in the Senate, and they won in some key battleground states like Florida and Ohio, places that Democrats need for the 2020 election. So to me, when I look at a high electoral turnout, Republicans fared fairly well when you look at it in a presidential lens, and that portends good things for them in the future.
Just one footnote to that. In absolute votes cast, in 2010, huge Republican year, Republicans got about 45 million votes. 2018, terrible Republican year, they got 49 million votes. They got 4 million more. So you have mutual mobilization.
The Democrats got 8 million plus more votes than that.
It wasn't enough, obviously. It wasn't enough, but the point is there's massive mutual mobilization. This is not a case of the vote for the party of the president collapsing.
I think the basic turnout question is Hillary Clinton suffered from an enthusiasm gap. And what we saw in 2016 and what we saw in 2018 is that enthusiasm for Democrats came back in a very, very big way. So I think you can argue high turnout is good for both parties, but I think significantly for Democrats in 2018, we sort of got our mojo back.
So there's a long time in politics between now and 2020. So as the Democrat at the table, what do you think your party has to be careful of in the next 2 years? Careful not to do?
I think, overreaching, basically. We now control the power of the subpoena and the power of investigations. there are already several investigations happening right now. It's not just Mueller. We've got, the Southern District of New York. We've got the new Attorney General in New York saying that she is going to investigate his taxes and his businesses. And people tend to conflate them all. So for the Congress, and they will have some investigations, but for that to be their sole focus, I think is a big mistake. They need to focus on legislating, on actually doing the work of the people. Otherwise, I think voters in general will be like, throw their hands up in the air.
So overreaching, that's one caution. What's yours?
Well, I think overreaching is absolutely something there, but going along with that, too, is not finding a message that appeals to the disenfranchised voters around the country. That was the biggest problem they've had in 2016, and if they can't do that in 2020, Donald Trump's going to be reelected.
I think the mistake is Democrats like governing. They want to govern. They want to do things. They only control one house of Congress, and you can't do things from that basis. So the Republicans would, in a situation like this, think more politically, preparing the chessboard for the battle of 2020. Democrats may be tempted to try to pick up little wins along the way for which they may pay too high a price in concessions to the president, including in impunity from his wrongdoing.
So don't try to do too much.
Don't try to do too much.
Okay, so there's a big story that is consuming Canada at the moment, and it's about our relationship with the United States and China. This is the arrest of the CFO of Huawei. Jay, it feels to Canadians that they're being played here and that they're stuck between the United States and China and there's nothing they can do. What is the American play here? What are the Americans?
So this should become as no surprise, this battle against China. This has been going on since Donald Trump announced his presidency. He actually talked about China more than any other subject in his announcement for presidency. This is something that Steve Bannon was instituting in early days, the fight against stealing of intellectual property, the fight against security of China. So this is not really a surprise. Now, I will tell you this, down south of the border, the American media pays no attention to the Canadian role in this.
Well, that's not news to us.
And I know that's a big deal here too. But so it's not really on the forefront there. But the fight against China in this upcoming battle, that should not be a surprise to anybody.
What can Canada do here?
Canadians in government need to reach out to responsible actors in the American political system to circumvent the president. Because here's the problem: that the true democratic interest in this matter is global rules. And making it clear that when you get a legal service, it's a legal event, not a political event. The Chinese interest is in discrediting the legal system of the democracies, reducing it to their own level and saying there is no law, only politics. And President Trump has endorsed the Chinese view. That makes it very hard to arrive at any kind of satisfactory solution. Everyone needs to be on board around this president. The law is the law is the law. And Canada, left alone against China, cannot win. It doesn't have the clout. So there has to be unity between the United States and Canada. And again, that means working around the president who can never be united with any ally, only with America's enemies.
But what's his incentive to do that?
He has no incentive. What you can rely on, though, is forgetfulness and irresponsibility and procrastination. I am very inspired by the story of Gary Cohn saving the U.S.-South Korea Free Trade Agreement by snatching a copy of it, of the order canceling it, off Trump's desk. The parents will remember the concept of object permanency. That is, there's a point in a toddler's life where, you teach it peekaboo, but mommy's still there. Trump never quite mastered that when you put peekaboo over his eyes, he thinks mommy doesn't exist anymore. And if you can take the paper off his desk, he actually forgets it ever was there in the first place.
But some people are going to hear you and say, there you guys go again, sort of infantilizing the president.
His staff infantilizes him. It was his staff. It was his chief economic advisor who believed if I take the paper off the president's desk, the president will forget it's there. Not me. This chief economic advisor believed that.
Okay, another big subject here: the Mueller investigation. Look, as an outsider who lives in another country, it's really hard to stay up to speed on this. I don't know. There were 17 investigations, not including the congressional ones. I don't know what to watch for next. So can you help us with
this? Is why Lotus invented the spreadsheet.
It's true. It's very complicated. But here's what I think at least American voters understand. They understand that people are going to jail. They understand that people have been indicted. And they understand that the president has been implicated in felonies. But the bottom line is we still do not know what Mueller knows. We do not know when he'll be finished. And it's sort of difficult to imagine what can happen next until that report is complete.
Okay, tangibly, what are you watching for in this investigation?
I'm waiting, well, tangibly. So I think one of the most interesting pieces is this National Enquirer piece, if you've been following that along. So basically, the National Enquirer has come to terms with the Justice Department. They've been actually talking to them and offering up the facts behind this. And whatever comes out of that, I think is going to be really telling to what happens in the Muller investigation.
The president's almost out of time for counter moves, but having talked about his deficiencies, the president is a survivor. He's very tactical, and he's very fierce. He doesn't have a lot of time to stop the Justice Department and other institutions from coming after him, but if he doesn't stop them, they will come after him. So what will he do with the small amount of time and the dwindling array of resources he's got? That's what I'll be watching.
Okay, very quickly, one sentence from everyone, because in 10 days' time, we'll be talking about the year in 2019. So around the table, in one sentence, what's your prediction?
I fearfully anticipate a softening global economy, worsening world financial markets.
Always so cheerful. Patty?
I predict there will be 20+ people running for the Democratic nomination in 2019.
Also a nightmare?
I think for every one of those Democrats, we'll have a new nickname on Donald Trump's.
Thanks very much, everybody. We'll see you in 10 days' time.
And still ahead on The National, she was born with hearing loss, but now at 6 months, sounds have become clearer, how they fixed it and how they caught the problem in the first place on the other side of the break.
I hear that. Yeah.
It was neat to see almost a new world open up for her.
Yes.
First, though, a look at a story you'll see here tomorrow night. When they fled Syria for Canada, they were forced to leave family behind. That is, until now. Susan Ormiston is there as they finally reunite at the airport. Here's a preview.
On arrival day, Aniki is waiting with Zainab. The trip from Lebanon has taken 2 days and the flight's been twice delayed. Then finally, after a 3-year wait, Mohammed Tambari and Ida Abdelkarim emerge. Greeting their daughter-in-law, meeting their grandchildren, who barely remember them. Bilal, it's your grandfather, she says. Keenan, age 9, was raised by the grandparents and he'll join his cousins. The sponsorship group is responsible for the first year of settling in. And Zainab is grateful. So are the grandparents.
The humanitarian crisis has got to receive the attention that it merits.
Sharp words from members of the U.S. Congress after a tour of several border facilities, including the one where a 7-year-old Guatemalan girl died while in custody. The lawmakers are asking for an independent investigation into the child's death. They're also seeking the resignation of the head of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol.
The intersection shut down, and they're doing donuts in the middle of the intersection.
Wild video just released by police in Ontario, taken by a police helicopter. You can see more than 100 vehicles blocking an intersection in Pickering, east of Toronto. Police tried to break up the group. Some people sped off. One vehicle, though, was boxed in by police at a gas station. The 24-year-old driver is facing several charges, including dangerous operation of a motor vehicle and failing to stop for police. And the House of Commons looks a little different tonight, a little empty. That's because the desks where MPs sit have been moved to West Block, where question period will take place starting next year. Centre Block will undergo renovations for the next 10 years.
We'll talk about a complete 180 for a family in Toronto. They're learning their baby daughter can now do what so many of us take for granted. She can hear music, laughter, and the world around her. Francesca was born with a rare condition that left her with hearing loss, but thanks in part to a new provincial screening program, she won't miss a thing. Our Taylor Simmons has her story.
I hear that. Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago Julia Tirabasso worried her daughter Francesca would never hear anything. That is until 1 week ago when doctors switched on this green light and gave her the ability to hear.
Okay, so that was 2. It was just subtle. It was looking down and then looking up, and it was unbelievable.
It was neat to see almost a new world open up for her.
Yes.
in the way that she looked up.
Francesca was born with congenital cytomegalovirus. It's an infection contracted during pregnancy that can cause hearing loss.
It's only in that degree of exposure, so when moms get it when they're pregnant, that it can be passed on to the child in a way that can cause hearing loss, amongst other things.
Francesca is the first baby to have the virus detected through a new provincial screening program. If a newborn fails their initial hearing test, doctors can now send a blood sample to test for the virus. They say the earlier they catch it, the better.
Babies hear when they have normal hearing, even in utero. And so the beginnings of speech and language foundation happen, right away.
About 900 babies in Ontario are exposed to the virus each year, and 1 in 5 of them experiences hearing loss.
Ciao, Francesca.
In Francesca's case, doctors decided to fit her with a cochlear implant, attaching small electrodes to the inside of her ears. And already, her parents can see the difference.
Obviously, she didn't know that it, makes a little bit of noise. So the first time it was quite incredible.
Now, Francesca will grow up just like any other baby.
Santa Claus was very good to us this year, and we couldn't have asked for anything better. I hear that.
A special gift just in time for Francesca to ring in her first Christmas. Taylor Simmons, CBC News, Toronto.
Up next on The National, it was a Nova Scotia couple's holiday mission, and it's our moment.
We had nothing to go on except his age and a light blue Jeep-like vehicle. That was all that we had to go on.
But first, trailblazing actress and director Penny Marshall has died. Perhaps still known best for Laverne and Shirley, she proved that single working-class women in a changing America could be as popular as anything else on TV. And maybe what made Laverne so relatable was that, in a lot of ways, it was just Penny Marshall being herself.
Why would a doctor be unemployed? He was so good, he cured everybody.
She was loud, neurotic, often inappropriate. She was smart, strong, independent, and so funny.
Terrible.
You were fun.
No, I stunk.
No.
I had just come out here.
You were great.
I never acted before in my life.
You had a look.
No, what look this?
Penny Marshall struggled to find good TV work at first, but in 1975, Big Brother and Happy Days creator Gary Marshall cast her and friend Cindy Williams in roles that changed their lives. Laverne and Shirley first appeared as love interests for Fonzie and Richie. The audience adored them, so ABC launched the hit spin-off that ran for almost a decade. Marshall then parlayed that into success behind the camera. With 1988's Big, she became the first female director to crack $100 million at the box office. A string of hits followed: Awakenings, A League of Their Own, which remains the highest-grossing baseball movie of all time, and The Preacher's Wife, a popular remake of an old Cary Grant classic. 75-year-old Penny Marshall died at her home in Los Angeles due to complications from diabetes.
A Nova Scotia couple was just trying to do a good deed, helping a man find his car by driving around a busy mall parking lot. But he left all his holiday shopping in their car. The lengths they went to reunite him with his Christmas gifts is our moment of the day.
We were getting ready to go home, and I was putting my packages in the back seat, and I was like, "Oh, you were shopping too. What did you buy me?" And he's like, "Oh my goodness, that belongs to that guy." We couldn't find him, so on the car drive back, started posting, "Please help, please share" on Facebook. I received 2 inbox messages, and both gentlemen knew the guy. He spoke with my husband, and he was joking about it. I was so proud of just everybody and the steps that they took.
So where did all this kindness happen? At the Micmac Mall in Dartmouth, and Darlene says she and her husband are new to the area, but her husband's a bit of a talker. And so it was just very much like him, apparently, to sort of start connecting with people and help somebody out.
And I guess from the moment things started going wrong, a lot of things had to go right? So the couple, they were apparently impressed / surprised that no one, for example, tried to call in and falsely claim the shopping as theirs. And just think, if anyone else had been in their position, I mean, maybe they just would have taken that, what was it, Eddie Bauer shopping bag and just kept it for themselves.
And one of the great things about this moment, of course, is it's a reminder we live in geographically a big country, and a lot of people kind of look at this modern era with our faces buried in our smartphones as being a cold technological age, but we're really a series of small towns, right? And this is a very small town thing, even in a city like Halifax, that people just got the word out and they finally found the guy who left his Christmas presents in the car. I think that's a very sweet moment for us to end on. And that is the National for December the 18th. Good night.
Good night.